Hi, Hi, how's it going? Don't mind me. I'm just in the middle of Starbucks getting some work done. Um, handling some things that I have looking for it within the next few weeks. I know the holidays are coming up. Like Christmas is coming up and New Year's and everything. And I mean, I don't really have anything like extravagant planned or whatever. But I do look forward to the holidays, though. I've just been focused on like music and like my grind and everything, and just staying focused on building. And you know, I know there's a lot going on, and everybody has their things that they're dealing with in the holidays and whatnot. So you know my whole thing is like just staying focused on what I'm working on, what I'm good at, what I'm great at, and then also just building the things as it pertains to like my personal life and everything. And I know I haven't got on here and did one of these live streams. I think the last one was Thanksgiving. So yeah. So I don't know. I'm still figuring out what I'm doing for Christmas, but I think I might like just like I don't know, just treat myself and get something nice. I mean, not super like expensive or anything, but like whatever. Like it's 2025, it's about to be 2026, and I've come a long way. There's been a lot that's gone on in my life since me leaving my childhood home, the hell house that I like to call it. And there's been a lot of like roller coasters and like ups and downs and whatnot, but like I'm here. I'm here, still here, and I have more to do. So I look forward to that. And even during like tough seasons or whatever, like I'm here for a challenge. There's I've been through too much to like let perspectives or circumstances or challenges or whatever like deter me from what I have set for my life and for my goals and opportunities and whatnot. So um, you know, I say to that, bring it on, bitches. Like, line up, take a number, because what's new? You know, I've dealt with conflict and controversy for like, I don't know how many years now. And, even during my worst times, you know, where there was a moment where I could have not been here. And God was like, yeah, no, not her. Yeah, you thought, but no, she needs to be here a little bit longer. She has work to do. So here I am, and I'll continue to be here until the God that I serve um, says otherwise. But until then, I was going through like my music and everything, and just thinking about the songs that I've been writing. And I mean, and the thing is, like, when I pitch my CDs, like, I tell people, like, I make love songs and motivational music because the last few songs that I've been making in the last few years have been motivational. I've been going through like some tough times or whatnot, and I wrote the songs that I needed to hear in those moments. And I mean, of course, as an artist, like, you want other people to like your music and hopefully be inspired by it. But I think the most important thing is if you like your own music. And the main thing for me was like, I was just live streaming, not knowing that it was being broadcasted to however many, thousands, millions of people or whatever. But to me, I was just like, look, I'm just documenting the experience of me creating my art and telling my story. And and that's why you have songs like Breaking Out the House, and just dealing with oppressive circumstances and saying, I'm not taking that. Like, no, we're breaking out the house, we're breaking out the matrix, we're breaking out of all these systems that try to hold us back and make us small. Like, no, if I'm too big, then get the fuck out the way, you know because my whole thing is like, you're not going to keep holding me back and deterring me from what I know to be true about my life, and that I'm worthy of being here. And and even during the times where I felt like, I don't know, like the worst, I knew music was the thing that kept me going. You know, I knew that I had important things to say, and I knew that my music would be, you know, if it didn't save my life, I knew it could save other people's lives. So, hold on, let me just make sure the audio. Okay, yeah, because I got the headphones in, because you know I got my what do you call it, my Bluetooth or whatever, that you know, so just making sure the audio is clear and correct. um so yeah, that's kind of like what's been going on. I've been focused on my music, and but yeah, the point that I was making about the motivational music, so like a lot of the songs that I have been writing in the last year or so have been motivational, because those were songs that I needed. Songs like Water Bearer, about not letting people make you feel like you're not worth being here. And, you know, songs like Breaking Out the House, even though it's like an upbeat house song, but it's like dealing with people taunting you and, you know, jabbing at you and being in your face and trying to press your buttons. And it's just saying, like, you know, make sure they stay out your brain. Like, don't let those people dictate your life. Don't let those people tell you where to go, tell you who to be, tell you what to say, because they'll do that. They'll try to control every aspect of your life, and then, you know, try to hang you at the stake for actually, you know, participating or falling for their traps and their tricks. And, you know, and that song is just like saying, fuck it, fuck you, and fuck that to the system. And, you know, and just saying, like, no, we're breaking out the house. I'm breaking out of this narrative. I'm breaking out of the systems. I'm breaking out of the oppressive, you know, circumstances around my life. And I'm taking what's rightfully mine, and I'm reclaiming, you know, the success, the glory, the accomplishments, and just the things that's rightfully mine in my life, in my lifetime. And, you know, and just living life the way I want it to be, and not the way other people have told me that it should be on other people's time. Like, no, this is my time, you know. And I've been listening to a lot of Erica Badu. And so, you know, one of her songs off of her debut album, Baduism, is Certainly, you know, and that song's kind of like been in my head. But I will fully choose for that one to be in my head, because there's a line in that song that's just been like resonating with my soul. That's like, you know, the world is mine when I wake up, and I don't need nobody telling me the time, you know, and that can be symbolic, that can be spiritual, you know, that could be metaphorical, however you want to look at it. Like, your life belongs to you, you know, even though like we might be born into like family situations that we don't choose. That could be debatable depending on your spiritual belief, but I'm not getting into that. But we could be born into these family systems that we don't choose, and so we feel like we have to like live for our families or make them proud. And of course, like if you're in a healthy situation, of course, but like even regardless, like your life is yours. Like, you have to live your life the way you want to, that's going to make you happy and make you proud. And if they support, then that's cool, that's a bonus. But the thing is, like, they can't get in your body and tell you how to live your life. You know, like, yeah, they have to raise you to a certain point and hopefully raise you to be a decent person and give you values and morals and stuff like that. God forbid you're in a good family system. I'm just saying, for my own unfortunate circumstances, things were a little different, but that's beside the point. Um, you know, but at a certain point, it gets to you get to an age where the decisions that you make for your life is yours to make, not anybody else's, not the environment that you're in, not the school that you go to, not the family that you're in, or the friend group that you're in. Like, no, your life belongs to you. And, you know, God willing that you're making good decisions that leads you to happiness and good health. And if you have people along the journey that support that and aid that, then, you know, God willing, we all are on the right path. So, you know, and that's kind of what Breaking Out the House is about. And then, you know, I was just really thinking about the songs that I have, and a lot of those are like they're yet to be released, so they're not out on official projects. But if you've seen my live streams, you've seen me make these songs. Like, I've produced the beats, worked on guitar, sang the vocals, wrote the songs, recorded the vocals, recorded the harmonies, engineered the music. Like, you guys have seen me like create this music, like brick by brick, piece by piece, and you know, in that journey. And then so from there to like now, where I'm just kind of like getting my footing, and mostly been on like marketing like my CDs just to like survive. And I'm kind of slowly but surely getting back into being creative. But I was just thinking about like the music and everything, and just like what my message is, what the song is, what's the intention, and and how am I showing up for myself. And you know it's been interesting. I've kind of like fell out of like the creative process of it. And slowly but surely I've been getting back to it. So like the other day I was at an open mic, or it was supposed to be an open mic, but it was karaoke or whatever. And I mean, nobody was doing anything. It didn't start till I got there, of course, because the queen has arrived. But so you know, I mean, it was a good time though. And of course, like, one, I really don't like interacting with humans, quite frankly, these days. And so I had to like, I don't know, it was a test for me to like get out of my comfort zone and like, work on music, sing, and like interact with people, meet new people. Ideally I was there to like see if I could like promote my music and try to sell CDs or whatever. But like, I was just like, what, let me just like see what the vibe is and see if like, and just like try to have a good time, whatever that looks like. Because like, I haven't really had the chance to focus on having a social life. It's just been like survival out here. And and I mean, I can do that, but every now and then, like, it's good to make time to like enjoy your life regardless of what you're going through. Like, it could look like the trenches out here, and sometimes it does. But I was just like, I want to get back to me. I want to get back to the things that make me shine, and in spaces where like I get to be like the most authentic expression of myself. And usually that's when I'm singing, and that's when I'm making music and I'm creating art. And and not thinking about like, oh, what this person thinks about me, or am I going to fit into this space, or do I have to deal with this person giving me a hard time today. Like, okay, like, yeah, that's the everyday situations that we all kind of deal with. But you know I was just like, I want to put all that down for a second, like, just like take down all you know the survival mode of it all, and just like have a moment to really just enjoy life regardless, because people are always going to have something to say. There's always, whether you're winning or not or whatever, you know there's always going to be somebody that's got something to say, something that's trying to tear you down, or some situation or space that's giving you a hard time. And for me, I'm just like, okay, fine, whatever, bring it on, I don't care. But I'm still going to find ways to enjoy my life anyway. Whether you like me or not, whether you like it or not, whether you like the circumstances or not, like, I'm not here to please you. You know, if you enjoy my journey along the way, then hey, welcome to the village. Um, that's what I call my space and my community and my fans. Welcome to the village. Mainly from that whole thing of like, it takes a village, right? And I know some of us may have grown up in beautiful villages, and some of us might have had challenging villages. But either way, I'm creating a village of my own, of like minded individuals that, you know, are real and authentic. And you don't have to be perfect, but just be yourself. And ideally be a good person, and but then also stand for something, like stand up to injustices and not just like fold to the system. And I understand some of us are in circumstances where we got to play the game, like if we're in corporate and we got to work these jobs that we don't want to, so we got to pay the bills, so you're technically playing the game. But like at the same time, like, what's your values, what's your morals, what are you willing to take a stand for, and some people are going to like it and some people aren't, and then some people are going to try to come up against you, and it is what it is. But don't fold, you know and yeah, only time I fold and hang it up is when I'm doing laundry. Even top players in the game can't stop me. I play to win like I'm playing on Atari. I wouldn't choosing any weapon that's on hiatus coyote. Shout out to hiatus coyote. Anyway, unreleased bars, but whatever. And writing, I have recently got back into writing a little bit, which I have been like hesitant about. I'm not gonna lie, just because I feel like there's been so many things going on in my life, like clouding my thoughts and ideas and whatnot, and just feeling like my creative process is just so invaded upon with technology and AI and all this, like, I don't know, people can get into your devices and whatnot. It's just exhausting, especially as a creative when you want to just exist and just make what you want to make. So I was just like, fuck it, you know. Well, I mean, I was inspired too. I'm not gonna lie. There was a nudge to get me to do it. So I was just like, all right, fine. So, um, yeah, I was just like, fine, I'm just going to take the risk and write what I'm feeling and express myself authentically. And it wasn't like the perfect structure, and I wasn't trying to make it that, because sometimes when I write it doesn't start out that way. I just want to get my ideas onto paper, and then eventually, like, if there's a melody that comes along with it, or if I make a beat, then I'll like shape it into what I want it to be. But the whole thing was to just get like words out, um, and just like express myself. So I did that, you know. And look, I'm just gonna be frank real quick. You know, I know there's a lot going on, and there's probably topics that people want me to talk about, and I'll get to that eventually. But that's not what I'm talking about right now. So we'll deal with that later. You know, I'm just going to talk about my life as a normal person and just try to keep some normalcy in this obscure existence and reality that I'm living. So it is what it is. Um, but you know, regardless, I'm just like really grateful for how far I've, like, you know, gotten in this journey and still going. And you know, there's been a lot of things to like come up as challenges, and you know, in a lot of things where, in circumstances where I may have been wrong, certain circumstances where I may have been right, but regardless, it's all been learning for me. And you know, and I'm not one to run away from like any situation that comes up. So you know, and with that, I like try to channel that into the music. And so like in what I was writing, you know, I was writing something that just felt like authentic to me and true to me. And you know, and it might not like maybe make some people feel away, but quite frankly, I don't care. You know, not that I don't care, but it's just like it's not about that. You know, like I don't make my music to baby other people. Like I make it to express myself, especially if I'm going through challenging things with people that I like have cared about or have had a relationship with, or I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But you know, and you come to these realizations and you discover these things and you realize there's more going on that you don't know, and you realize there's just so many things just like pulling on your energy and just like, you know, just trying to siphon the best out of you. But like, you know, and it's exhausting, especially as a woman, like, you know, because naturally we're nurturers and we give. And you know, to be in spaces where, you know, that's not cherished or cared for or protected like it should be. And you know, it's frustrating, especially when you come from a space of like wanting to be loving, and you want to be, you know, you want to be those things that you want to receive, like nurturing, loving, supportive, and of course you want those things in return. And then realizing in certain spaces that that's not what is being given. And then, you know, and then just that realization was what inspired what I was writing at that time. And so I kind of like, I don't know, I guess you can call it a poem for now until I transmute it into a song. So we'll see. But but yeah, that's kind of what's been going on. Um and yeah, and then I've been like getting back into writing. And then like, I'm not gonna lie, November could have been a better sales month for me. I mean, we're damn near at the end of December now. Um but you know, it's just like, because like I had plans to like be out of this area by now several times. Like if it were up to me, I'd have been out of here like in a different location, like a better living situation, like months ago. Um, but you know, there were these roadblocks and setbacks, and I get from the outside looking in, there's probably more going on that I know. But I kind of don't care about that because my thing is like I don't live for other people. Like I don't like, you know, it's just like it's one thing when you're like in an oppressive system, and you know, and then when you try to like break out of that, to break out of that, you have to acknowledge that it exists. And I like I do acknowledge that it exists, even though there's a lot of like stealth things that go on, like that people could try to gaslight you about, like redlining. And it's like, oh, maybe it's just like this neighborhood just didn't fit you. It's like, no, this there's systemic, strategic things in place to intentionally try to keep certain people out of opportunities, specific people out of opportunities. And I recognize that and I see those things. But and even though it's frustrating because I feel like I've constantly had to pivot because of these things, like I don't let it like stop me. Like I'm always projecting forward though. Like there's always progress forward. So, you know, even though I go through that and I'm like real estate, for example, like I've tried to like invest in real estate several times now. And, you know, it's just been frustrating because like you know, there's different opportunities where it's like, okay, if you don't have like a large amount of money for a down payment, you could be a part of this system, but you need to work like a full-time job and then be able to save this amount of money at this time. And at the time I was unemployed and I was seeking work. And you know, and in me seeking work, it's just that whole rat race of like needing one thing in order for the next thing to work, but the next thing to work, you need the other thing to work. And like just being in that cycle was just exhausting. But you know, I just keep moving forward though, right? And so I'm like, look, I refuse to let this like try to hinder my goals and my aspirations or what I want to do. And even though it's like it may be challenging because it's like, okay, well, how are you going to do it? Just like anybody else is doing it. Just like anybody else is investing in real estate. Like, you know, there's people historically, naturally, I speak to my experience as a black woman because it's just natural for me. But like, there's people in like the height of slavery, like in the 1800s, and I wish I'll like do my research so I can like be specific. But there's people like back in the day, like in like the 1800s, who found ways to like free themselves, and like whether it be like saving up money and like buying their freedom at a time where it's unheard of, or going into court. I forget, there was this one story of this one person that like broke out of slavery because their slave master was traveling um, with their unfortunately people who happened to be enslaved, and they I think crossed lines to a state that was free, and then somehow some way worked their way into freedom, and then they tried to put a bounty on them, and they took it to court and won. That like no, they actually you know, had the means and the finances to free themselves. I gotta look it up. If you know the story that I'm talking about, please let me know. But I have to look it up. But you know, there's people who do extraordinary things at a time where it feels like, even when it's legal, when it's even like laws in our country set up for us to fail, and there's people who find ways to win anyway. And I look to those stories because sometimes like we might be in situations where it feels like you could look in every direction and you don't know where to go, and it's like everything feels like a maze or a trap or whatever. But somehow, some way, there's a way to win. And I'm just the ridiculously relentless and persistent person to be like, I don't care what the fuck is going on out here. Like, I don't care what you have to say. I don't care what system you're creating. I don't care how many people is working at that office. I don't care how powerful they are. I don't care if you got witches and warlocks. I'm going to get where I need to go. And I'm going to get to my freedom. I'm going to get to a life that I've always wanted, where I can express myself truthfully. I can speak my truth freely. I can express my art, and I can be successful as a businesswoman, as an entrepreneur, and I don't have to live under the microscope of whoever thinks that they have the nerve and the audacity to try to oppress my life for whatever reason, you know? And, you know, I don't care how you feel about me. I don't care if you're upset. I don't care if the worst things have ever come out about me. And, you know, and you feel like, oh, well, she deserves that. All right, that's how you feel. And I don't care about that, because regardless of that, I know who I am. I know my heart. I know my intentions. I know my character. I know my integrity. And I know the mistakes that I've made in the past. And I know how much I've grown since then, to let anybody try to tell me who I am and tell me what I deserve and what I shouldn't deserve in life. So, you know, yeah, I've gone through a lot of things in my life. I've gone through some crazy shit. And, you know, and I've gone through things where, you know, I've had experiences that I'm not proud of, you know, and I look back at my childhood and I'm like, damn, I wish I could have handled that a little bit better. Or, you know, or certain situations where it's like, okay, I felt completely misunderstood in this situation and I'm not what people trying to make me out to be. And then this whole rat race of trying to like prove yourself to people. And, you know, I've just gotten to a point where it's like, I know who I am. God knows who I am. And I know my heart. I know what I stand for. And I know that there's certain circumstances that, you know, you have to like compromise and play the game a little bit. But all in all, I'm proud of who I am. And I know even in situations where I've had to deal with people that I either didn't like, or people who've slighted me or who've disrespected me or have benefited at keeping me at the bottom, I try to be fair. And sometimes maybe too fair to my liking at this point. But I try to be open minded and understand, like, okay, what are they going through? What's their perspective? And, you know, in instances where I could be very hateful towards people, I try to be optimistic and I try to be considerate and maybe understand that other person's perspective, even if it's against me, you know? And I love that about myself. I love that quality about myself because it takes a mature person to be that way. Some people could just go through the worst things in life and let that taint their heart and become hateful in this world. And don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect. I've definitely had those days. Some of y'all have seen those days where like I've, you know, wanted to like crash out and just like, you know, spaz on folks. And sorry, because I know in certain places in the world that's not the best language. So forgive me. But, you know, but all in all, there's been countless times where I'm like, even the people causing me pain, I've had grace for them. And I'm like, look, we all are in a fucked up situation. And I don't even want to be going back and forth with you because it's bigger than us. You know, it's really the people who have led us. It's the people who set us up to fail. It's the people who've created these environments and circumstances for us to even be in these situations in the first place. And then having us being combative with each other. And it's really just like pawns going up against pawns. But the question is, who's the pieces behind the pawns and who's the person moving the pieces? And it's like you could look at it and even take it in a work situation, right? Like say you work in a job and you work in entry level and you got beef with one of your coworkers, but the real beef with your coworker isn't even necessarily, maybe it's their personality or whatever, but say it's how they do their job, but maybe you don't realize that how they're doing your job is because of how somebody trained them, and somebody trained them to do that job just like that. And so, and then once you uncover these things and you realize, okay, well, why did they train them like that? And then you realize that the system that came up with the employee handbook is like a outdated system from like I don't know, like 70 years ago or something like that, depending on how old the company is. And then you realize the people in position of power, like your, you know, supervisors and your managers, they're following orders too. And then the question is like, all right, who's giving them orders? We're like, who created this system? And when can we get to a point where we update this system when we're not being combative with each other, but we're actually being fair and honest? And we're holding space for all of us, even when we make mistakes, right? Like, for example, like, you know, there was a situation with a family member of mine where they was giving me a hard time, and it was hell to go through. But trying to be considerate of their perspective, given the knowledge that might have been available to them and the training that was given to them, I can understand why they felt, obligated to do what they had to do. Because even though it was a detriment to me, even though they were giving me a hard time, I know from their perspective, they're probably thinking like they're standing up for something and they're doing something right. And, and of course, they're going to fight for, you know, what the cause that they thought that they were fighting for without realizing the full story and the full scope of things. Right. And so even though it was a detriment to me and in so many ways, and sometimes even still to this day, I give them grace because I know that they felt like they were moving out of honor. And then and learning more that was going on and who was instructing them to do these things and who created these scenarios for us to even be going back and forth with each other, hopefully, I don't know, maybe they might have a little bit more grace towards me. um and because even in the midst of us going at it, there's been moments where we've looked out for each other. There's been moments where, like, for example, um even though we weren't really on speaking terms, but there was like a chore to get done at the house that would have been like, helpful to like this community thing that was going on. It was like the summer, it was like really hot and whatnot. And even though we weren't on the best of terms, somehow, some way, in small ways, we found a way to like work together and had our own way of saying like thanks for looking out without really having to say it. And you know to have those type of relationships, it could be challenging, but it involves compartmentalization and recognizing that there's nuance and there's a lot that goes on that sometimes we don't understand. And at face value, it's just like this person did a transgression against me, so I want to attack this person. And then once you learn the whole story and you learn a lot that's going on behind the scenes and who's really pushing the pieces on the board, you realize that it's not even our fight, you know? And in that, sometimes you're set up to fight somebody that really could be an ally. And so, I I give them some grace despite the circumstances. And quite frankly, I'm grateful for those challenges because in those moments where we were combative with each other, it was iron sharpening iron. And and they were making me stronger and they were making me sharper and they were making me wiser to my own like inner strength and inner power and confidence. And there were certain ways that I stood up for myself where I didn't know I could, and just kind of like breaking the ceiling to limitations in my life that I didn't know were there because of, these moments where we were like combative with one another, even though we really shouldn't have been. But the system was set up for us to be like that, and how we grew up or whatever. But I'm grateful for that person. I'm grateful for the challenges that we've had because they've helped me grow, you know? And I understand that they were just doing what they felt like was the right thing for them to do given the information that they had available to them. And I respect it, even though it was hurtful to me at the time. But I understand. Um, and even, in certain other instances with like some like, family situations or like even friendships, there's been times where people have like thrown me under the bus and like blamed me for a situation that was not completely my fault in any capacity. And in that, I took a lot of the heat. I was like attacked and all these things. And mind you, people are just propping them up like, oh, they're like the poster child of like, I don't know, sympathy. And I'm like, what are we talking about? Like sympathizing what? Like you played a part too. Like what are we talking about? And and mind you, like had a lot of care and love for this person, and to a point where like I've gotten into arguments to like support this person. And I mean, if y'all have followed me, y'all know I've talked about this many times. And it got to a point where I was just like, man, F this. Man, I'm tired of standing up and defending people who don't have my back. Like, I'm quick to defend people. Even if I don't like somebody, but if I see they're in a situation that's obviously unfair, I'll even speak to the benefit of somebody that I don't like, because just to be fair, just to know like you're in a effed up situation and I don't like it. I don't like you, but I don't like the situation that you're in. And there's nobody gonna say nothing. I'm gonna say something because it's just not right, you know. And to be in a situation where people I've done that for hadn't done that for me, yeah, nah, that kind of brought like a deep seated rage to my spirit. But I think I guess God is working on me. He got a lot more work to do. But I say that to say, like, again, I try to be like empathetic and compassionate to that person, because maybe they were going through something where they felt like they had to take the stance that they took. And it was just easier to make me the scapegoat rather than to admit the truth, because admitting the truth would put some heat on themselves, right? And that takes maturity. That takes awareness and accountability. And maybe they didn't have that at that time. And, so it was just technically smarter for them to just like blame me, you know, but whatever. Um, I don't know. It's just a crazy world, right? And then there's definitely been some instances where like I've made mistakes and I've said things and I've done wrong. And and I look back to these moments. And sometimes it's like it's hard for me to like I'll just be frank. I'll just be real with it. It's hard for me to confront those moments because I know I'm not what people would try to like make me out to be or whatever, right? Like there's definitely moments where I might have been like mean or something, right? But I know I'm not a mean spirited person. And so if people like nitpick all the flaws in your life and compile them all together, they can say like, "Oh, you're a terrible person." But I'm like, "Wait, hold on. But I've also did this to help somebody. I've also did this to stand up for somebody. I've also did this where I sacrificed something that I wanted to do just to be supportive of somebody else." And I'm like, if you compile all the positive things, you can say that I'm a great person. But I would just like to say I'm human. Like I'm flawed, but I know I mean well, and I know I care about people. And when I'm in like healthy situations where I'm not like in combative spaces, like you would see that. And you know, in these situations were like, I don't know, definitely some life lessons. But the main point, you know, there's definitely moments in my childhood that I'm not like proud of because of like the environment that I was brought up in, and just the influences, and then just like certain behaviors and insecurities and feeling like I got to keep up with what everybody else is doing, even though what everybody else is doing isn't really good and is not a good influence. But I guess out of a space of like wanting to be like other people, or wanting to like have attention, or just be seen and be cared for, or be like, I don't know, like someone that was admired or whatever. There's definitely moments where I've like said or done things that have compromised like my integrity at the time, and I'm not proud of those moments. But at the same time, even though it may have taken me like a while to like confront that, like I have the self-awareness and enough like honesty and integrity to recognize those things and be willing to do the work to be better, and not just be like, oh well, that's just who I am, because I'm like, I know it's not who I am at all. And again, a lot of these circumstances happened when I was like young, like even when I was in my like early 20s and I was just like out partying and stuff like that. Because I mean, I'm in my 20s, like I went to like an all girls like prep school and wasn't really like hanging out like that. So when I was like grown and I like was able to like drink and whatnot, I was just out here. But then it got to a point where it's like, all right, you had your fun now, like are we gonna grow up? Like we not going. And mind you, I was hanging out with people who were older than me, which is funny enough. I was like in my early 20s hanging out with like people in their 30s or 40s. And but the thing was, even though like even during that time I was still ambitious though, because I was in a group, I was still working on music, and I'm like, well, I gotta. There was times where I would be at the bar, like creative directing a performance that I had coming up. So like I'd be hanging out with my friends, but I'm like, look, all right, so I need this lighting for this performance. When it switched to this song, we gonna do this transition. So I'm like working as I'm like hanging out, just because like, you know, duality, right? So anyway, my point, my point in all of this is like, there's moments in my life that I'm not proud of, that I wish would have been better, where I wish I hadn't said certain things or done certain things, and my behavior was better, or my um, way of handling situations were better. However, I still know that that little girl deserves love, and she deserves grace and forgiveness. And if nobody else is going to give it to her, I'm going to give that to her. And I've always wanted to grow up to be the person that I wish I had in my corner when I was younger. And I'm grateful to say that I am that person today. And I still have work to do. I'm not, like I said, I'm not perfect in any way, but I've gone through enough, and I'm proud of who I am, to know that I'm bold enough and more knowledgeable to have been able to stick up for Lil Reese, that probably just needed better guidance and protection, and someone to say, nah, don't do that like that, or don't say that, or this is how you should handle this situation. I know the woman that I am today could have better guided me back then. And even though I didn't have that, because many of you know that I grew up most of my childhood without my mom, so I had to go through like the whole like developing as a girl, living in a house with two guys, and it was just like awkward because a lot of it was trial and error. Um, but now I know. Now I know what I didn't know then, and yeah, there's definitely like awkward, cringy moments that I was just like, why did I say that? Why did I do that? Why did this happen like this? And then, as I've gotten older and did some like homework and, you know, some like some digging into like my family history and stuff like that, there were reasons why like some of those moments happened. And, and quite frankly, some of those moments were intentional, you know, and intending to make me to be like the black sheep scapegoat of the family, to say like, oh, she's the problematic one, when when really I just needed guidance, and I needed love, and protection. And you know I had those things on the surface, but not in where it really mattered. And it was just easy to make me the problem rather than just like lead me right. So, whatever. But I still stand on who I am. I know who I am. I'm confident in who I am. I love who I am. And even through those awkward moments when I was younger, you know, I was still like a dope kid though, like I was smart, I was talented, I had good friends. I had a lot of friends, and it was easy for me to make friends back then. And I had all types of friends. I was the type of person who got along with everybody, like regardless of what you were into. If you were into hip hop, if you were into rock, if you were into like anime, whatever. I was the type of person that prided myself in being a safe space for other people to be their truest expressions of themselves. And sometimes that landed with people and sometimes it didn't. But that was just the type of person that I was. And I know that it's not like I was one of those like badass baby kids, and shout out to the baby kids. They have their space in the world and they deserve love too. But I just know that I wasn't that kid, and I'm just in like going through like these family pictures and like learning about certain things in my family. and reflecting on my childhood and certain moments, and and all these different moments. There's a lot of moments that were probably more traumatic at the time than I realized, because I was too young to realize what all was happening. But at the same time, like, all of those experiences shaped who I am today. And regardless of whether like people rock with me now, don't rock with me, hate me, however you feel about me, I mean, I really don't care. Quite frankly, as long as you stay out the way, I don't care. If you in my way, then I'm gonna handle you, move you out my way. But my point is, how you feel about me is really up to you, and that's okay. That's fine. But I know who I am, and I don't need your validation. But I'm grateful for the people who do see me and see my heart and see my intentions and just see me as a person, and as well as me as a musician and me as a businesswoman and me as a creative and me just as an American, me as a Black woman, me as just this human vessel trying to figure out life in this lived experience. So with that said, you know, you know, there's definitely some moments in my life where I had some challenges that brought out like a lot of rage and frustrations, and I still deal with that. Like, don't get it twisted. I'm not perfect at all. Like, I still be upset at people. I still be wanting to tussle every now and then. And I know that's not the mature thing. Of course, we don't want violence, but every now and then. But anyway, I say this to say I'm trying to mature and grow in a way where I can give grace and compassion to even the people who've hurt me. And if I was a person that may have like hurt someone, I hope that they could give me that love and compassion and understand that, maybe at that time I didn't know better, or there was more for me to learn, or there were certain things, influencing my life at that time, intending for me to be like that. But as an adult, we all should be growing, we all should be learning, we all should be, you know, improving upon ourselves as people, and hopefully to be better for the people in our lives. And I strive to do that. And, you know, and however that looks. And not in like a perfect, like, oh, let's come together in kumbaya type of way, but just in a way where it's like, I know where my integrity is today, and I know who I am, I know what I stand for, and then I also know what I fight for, because there's certain things that require to stand up and fight. And I'm confident in who I am when it comes to that too. And, you know, I just hope that people understand that. And if you rock with it, I appreciate you. If you don't, it is what it is. That's cool. But I do want to just take a moment to say thank you to everybody that's ever been like supportive towards me, even when it didn't look too great. um, People who believe in me, people, even when, I didn't get it all the way right and I may have messed up certain things in my life, or maybe I was wrong in, my approach or my wording. And some people may have felt like I might have led them astray, or, and if anybody feels that way, I apologize. Um, and for people who have been supporting me, for the people who've been purchasing the music, people who've been like, who know my story, people who don't know my story, who maybe you're just hearing all the shenanigans. This is just a fraction. Lord, there's so much that goes on, especially the things that tie into the industry, but that's a whole nother conversation for another time. But thank you. Thank you to everybody that's, giving me nuggets of hope, even when things weren't looking so hopeful. And thank you to the people who've been like, giving me a word and a little bit of encouragement, or sending some money my way, or looking out for me, in any capacity. I'm extremely grateful for y'all. And I pray for y'all abundance in return, love in return, protection in return. Thank you to everybody that's been like really looking out for me, and people holding me accountable. I appreciate y'all. Sometimes I I like to think that I'm a very self-aware person, but I know there's times where I could be more self-aware, and there's times where I just have to confront the uncomfortable things that I've been through and like own my part of it. And I have before. It's just frustrating when I feel like I constantly have to do that, because I feel like there's certain situations where I've talked about it so many times, and it's like, how many times do I have to keep addressing these things? Like, I've already addressed this, you know, and it's frustrating. So there's that aspect to it too. But regardless, thank you to the people who hold me accountable. Thank you to the people who say, you don't have to rework that one. Okay, fine. I'm gonna get it together. We gonna get it. We gonna get it right. We gonna get it what it needs to be. Um, but thank you to the people who challenge me. Thank you to the people who who still believes in me, who sees the best in me, even when it's not my best season. Thank you to the people who encourage me, because there's definitely times where I need it, and it's hard sometimes because I get some people, you all got your own things that you got going on. You have your own lives, you have your own families, and sometimes it's a risk to try to help somebody else out when you may be going through stuff where you need help yourself. So you can't really be as forthright or as open to like being as helpful as you might want to be, but you could give like a little word here, and I appreciate that. I'm trying to be understanding to that. Sometimes it's hard because it feels like, there's times where I feel abandoned, and there's times where I feel misunderstood and like, like left alone and like out of the loop of things. And in ways I am, because I don't really follow what everybody else is doing like that. But um, thank you. Anyway, thank you. Um, Thank you to the people who challenge me. Thank you to the people, all the positive folks, and even thank you to the haters too. I appreciate y'all because y'all keep me great, and okay, like I said, iron sharpens iron. Like I was saying about, well, I wouldn't say this person's a hater. They was just doing what they felt like they had to do, right? But even in us being combative, you know, she's helped me sharpen my steel, and I'm grateful. Um, I'm grateful for the ways that she's helped me with my jabs and my combos, and I'm grateful for that. Even in the fights that I've lost, but I learned from it, and I say that to the people who are actual haters. Thank you to y'all too, because I mean, damn, you think about me. Wow, who are you? I don't know, but wow, you think about me. I love that. Okay, but next time buy the CD though, like, cause really, like, I feel like y'all like undercover fans, and that's okay. That's fine. You can deal with that emotions yourself. But I do have a really good project out that you might need to hear. Maybe burn some sage, smoke a blunt. I don't know, but you know, maybe you just need to vibe out and listen to Mascara. I don't know, or Alumni, whichever song might fit your vibe. But I feel like you're really just a fan, and maybe you haven't come to grips with that you're a fan yet, and that's okay. That's fine. But just work those emotions out over there. Don't send that my way, because I'll send it right back. But thank you for thinking of me. Thank you for curating your content around me. Like, wow, little old me from Jersey. I mean, the music is good, but damn, I know y'all thought it was that good. But I appreciate y'all. Um, yeah, shout out to the haters. You know, they say you ain't popping if you ain't got no haters, and apparently I got a lot, so I must be really popping. That's why y'all can't take me nowhere. Um, but yeah, okay, all right. What else is there to say? I mean, that was pretty much all I wanted to say. This is approaching upon an hour. Um, Actually, this is what we gonna do. Ooh, I don't know if I got first problem. This is what I'm. All right, hold on. I got a phone, because what I used to do back in the day when I first started live streaming, I would end with a prayer, and my go tos would be like either Psalm 23 or Psalm 91. But there was another song that I liked that I hadn't really read before. So we're gonna do that one. And I know I haven't been live streaming as much as I used to. And not only that, I know those last few live streams I haven't really been saying that many prayers. I think my thank yous was pretty much the prayer, but I do want to like end it on a note of like spiritual stability and like something to just like feed you guys back with something wholesome for the soul, right? So let's do that. All right, I hope this is the right song. I don't know. We gonna see. All right, so if you want to pull out your Bibles, uh, which version I don't know. I'm just looking it up on Google because I usually have my book with me, so that's how I know I've been slipping. God getting me together though. I say he working on it. He working on it. Okay. All right, y'all. Okay. So I don't know. This might be a long one. That's fine. That's fine. This is gonna make up for lost time. That's okay. That's all right. So we're going to be reading Psalm 35. Now it's a bit lengthy, but I don't know. Maybe some of y'all heathens need the word. So I know I do. So all right. So here we go. Plead my cause, O Lord, with them that strive with me. Fight against them that fight against me. Take hold of shield and buckler, and stand up for mine help. Draw out also the spear, and stop the way against them that persecute me. Say unto my soul, I am thy salvation. Let them be confounded and put to shame that seek after my soul. Let them be turned back and brought to confusion that devise my hurt. Let them be as shaft before the wind, and let the angel of the Lord chase them. Let their way be dark and slippery, and let the angel of the Lord persecute them. For without cause they have hid for me their net in a pit, which without cause have dug for my soul. Let destruction come upon him at unaware. Sorry, y'all. My screen is like sliding up and down. Like, all right, come on. Like, we ain't got time for this. All right, y'all. Bear with me, y'all. All right. Let the let destruction come upon him at unawares, and let his net that he hath hid catch himself. Into that very destruction let him fall. And my soul shall be joyful in the Lord, and shall rejoice in his salvation. All my bones shall say, Lord, who is like unto thee, which deliverest the poor from him that is too strong for him, near the poor and the needy from him that spoileth him. False witnesses did rise up. They laid to my charge things that I knew not. They rewarded me evil for good, to the spoiling of my soul. But as for me, when they were sick, my clothing was sackcloth. I humbled my soul with fasting. My prayer returned into mine own bosom. I behaved myself as though he had been my friend or brother. I bowed down heavily, as one that mourneth for his mother. But in mine adversity they rejoiced, and gathered themselves together. Yea, the abjects gathered themselves together against me, and I knew it not. They did tear me, and ceased not. With hypocritical mockers and feasts, they gnashed upon me with their teeth. Lord, how long wilt thou look on? Rescue my soul from their destructions, my darling from the lions. I will give thee thanks in the great congregation. I will praise thee among much people. Let not them that are mine enemies wrongfully rejoice over me, neither let them wink with the eye that hate me without a cause. For they speak not peace, but they devise deceitful matters against them that are quiet in the land. Yea, they opened their mouths wide against me and said, Aha, our eye hath seen it. This house has seen, O Lord. Keep not silence, O Lord. Be not far from me. Stir up thyself and awake to my judgment, even upon my cause. My God and my Lord, judge me, O Lord, my God, according to thine righteousness, and let them not rejoice over me. Let them not say in their hearts, so would we have it. Let them not say, we have swallowed him up. Let them be ashamed and brought to confusion together that rejoice at mine hurt. Let them be clothed with shame and dishonor that magnify themselves against me. Let them shout for joy and be glad that favor my righteous cause. Yea, let them say continually, let the Lord be magnified, which hath pleasure in the prosperity of his servant. And my tongue shall speak of thy righteousness and of thy praise all the day long. So it is. So it will be. Much gratitude and love for what's already been. Amen. I mean, I said I was a lengthy one. I'm like, I haven't read that one too many times, but I remember. I was like, mental note. But yeah, Psalm 35, for those who don't know. This particularly was the King James version. I don't have a personal preference. That was just the first one that showed up on the screen, so that's what we read. You know, the King James version of the Bible. And yeah, thank you for those who participated in this live stream. I hope you got a word. And yeah, thank you to everyone that's shown up, that's been supportive, that has a good word. And I don't know if that prayer resonated with you. I know it resonated with me because, you know, sometimes people be trying me. And I'm like, everything that you set for me is already done upon you. What Celie say in the purple color purple? Everything that you already done to me is already done unto you. So, you know, there's that. But but yeah. So with that said, I don't know who needed the word, but that's the word. That's the live stream for the night. Much love to y'all. And I hope you all have a good night. And again, you know, support the music, follow on all the socials, follow on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I'm mostly on TikTok. I mean, follow me on X too because I don't tweet. I'll be on there hooting and hollering. But I mean, hey, follow me on there anyway. Um, and yeah, and then, you know, follow me on YouTube. I'm mostly on like YouTube and TikTok. I'm trying to get more on the other social media platforms and everything too. And yeah, and hit me up if you want to purchase the album. The CD is $10. Infatuate World of Neptune, originally entitled Divine. When I released it in 2020, it's Infatuate World of Neptune now. And yeah, abbreviated I won because all I do is win, no matter what. And yeah, just like let me know if you want to purchase the EP. You can hit me up. I can email it to you digitally, and you know, you can pay either like um, Venmo, Cash App, Zelle, or donate. You know, who am I to limit the blessings that are bestowed upon me? So, you know, because I know there's people who bought the CD, and then there's people who just wanted to bless me with a donation, and you know, could have bought like 100 CDs, quite frankly. But I'm just grateful for that. So yeah. Um, so thank you again to everybody that supported this far. I recently, like, I think one of the last live streams I did was I celebrated selling 100 CDs, right? And I'm very close to 150. I might have already reached it by now, actually. I just have to go through my stats again. I know last week I was at like 140, I think 144 or something like that. I think I'm over that by now. But I'm close to like 150. So yeah, progress is being made. And mind you, this has been without like flash drives too. I've sold out of the flash drives a long time ago. I'm debating if I want to make some more of those. We'll see. But for now, the CDs have been selling, the MP3s have been selling, the music has been selling. And I'm just really grateful for all the support, everybody that's been purchasing, and even the people who just donate, or people who do both. There's people who purchase the CD and donate, or purchase multiple copies of the CDs, and I'm just so appreciative. I'm very grateful for like all the support that I've been able to receive, you know, and yeah, it's mean a lot to me because I never thought that I would get to a point where like my music would actually sell. I mean, okay, not that's not true. you know I was just like relentless about my music, and I was just going to pursue it regardless of how successful it was going to be. But there definitely was a time where like promoting and marketing was a challenge for me. Like it's easy for me to make the art and make the music and the visuals and style and edit and direct and all of those things, and then of course putting on social media and posting and stuff like that. But it's another thing to actually like acquire sales and and get people to actually purchase. Now people purchase for different reasons, and again, that's not my business. It is my business actually, because I'm the one receiving the revenue. But you know regardless, I'm grateful for the people who take the time, because people can be petty, right? But I don't care about that. I'm grateful for the people who have like purchased the CD and donated and just really wanted to like support my cause, support my music, support my like evolution and my success as an artist. And I'm grateful for that, because like I said, I've come a long way, and this has been a journey, and even in certain setbacks there was always something propelling me forward. So even though I might not have been in a space where I wanted to create as much as I wanted to, it forced me to get out here and hustle and really push my product. And so to be at a point where I can say I've sold over 100 CDs single-handedly by myself, on me, in the field, and I'm really proud of that. And and like for what I think for the month of September and October, I've acquired over like $1,000, over $1,000 each month. um and yeah, I just need to like rinse and repeat and scale the business, which I'm working on right now actually. So yeah, I'm just really grateful for like the growth and the success, and just like being able to like build the like the success of something that I was just dreaming of when I was a kid, of just like being a singer. Because that's really like, if we want to really bring it back to like the inner child of Nerisse, like all I've ever wanted to do is just sing songs and like feel pretty and make other people feel good about themselves. And to be in a space in my life where I'm doing that, where I know like under better circumstances, like I could style a look, I could direct a photo shoot, I can put the swag together, and then also I know the music is good too, and I'm a better vocalist because of it. And to really be like doing the things that young me always wanted to do, and that's really the truth of my spirit. That's the truth of me. That's the truth of like the Lil Reese, and everything that I've always wanted to be. And I'm doing it. I'm living my dream out loud, and this is the beginning stages, and I'm still growing, still scaling, still building. But I'm grateful that I never gave up on me, because if not me, then who? And that's pretty much what I do all of this for. Like I said earlier in the live stream, I just wanted to be the person that I wish I had in my corner when I was younger, and I'm literally becoming the person that I always wanted to be when I was younger. Like someone that was tough, someone that never gave up, someone that stood up for herself, that was willing to go toe to toe against people, stand up to corporations, you know, and not care, like be able to, you know, and not only just that, but like be bold enough to like speak up when something is wrong, stand up for something, challenge people in positions of power like presidents and corporate offices and stuff like that, and to know that my voice matters and my voice holds weight, and that it can shift positive change. And sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it doesn't, but I know that power is within me in more ways than one. And 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 I'm just grateful for just like the evolution of me learning the power that I have within, and how I can, you know, govern more control over that and protect that and nurture it, and and set boundaries and know that that power is for me. And and for the people that I choose to share it with, and the people who uplift me and encourage me and teach me too. There's many people who like give me a word. It's like, okay, yeah, your vocals is this, but you could probably approach it like this. And I'm like, all right, cool, and I respect that. And people who encourage me without trying to bring me down, you know and that's a blessing, because there's people who could be in your life and that could see that you're shining, see that you have a light and you have aspirations, but maybe don't like give you a word that can help you out, or try to do something to like hinder you. But I'm really grateful for the people who are so like secure within themselves that they can give you a word or give you advice or give you some experience or connect you with somebody that can elevate you and not feel like like intimidated in any way. And I'm grateful for those kind of people, because it takes a certain like maturity and like self confidence to be that. And yeah, and you know, I'm grateful for that. And and I have a lot of followers that have been that in my life, like throughout my journey in small ways. And it doesn't even have to be like music. Um, just some people helping me, like, if maybe if you want to pay this phone bill, you might want to use, if you're looking for a coin, here's a little money for you. If you need a little donation, and I'm just so grateful for those people. I'm so grateful for y'all, even the people who may have come in and out for whatever reason. Like, I really wish the best for everybody. And again, I'm just grateful for everybody that's been showing me love and supporting. And yeah, so that's it. That's the live stream. That's it. That's the live stream. Much love to y'all, and I will see y'all next time.